Hello, everybody. It's Jerry Brown with DePaul Dog Sports coming to you to update you on the coronavirus with regards to the agility community here on Monday, April 27th, 2020. If you have comments during or after this video, please do leave them below. If you're watching this based on a Facebook link, I think you can find a way to click on it to go to YouTube and leave comments there, or you can email me directly at DePaw, the name of the school, DEPAW, agility, it's all one word, at gmail.com, DePawagility@gmail.com. If you like what you're hearing, or if this subject is of interest to you, please do share it with other clubs around the nation. Try to keep this conversation going so that we can open up as safely as we possibly can. I think we're getting really close now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It'll help us know what the viewership is and whether or not we're giving you the information that you want to have. Did have a little bit of bad news recently. We've lost an agility competitor to the coronavirus. A gentleman by the name of Clark Steve Osnicki has perished due to this virus, and it's a very sad thing. Believe the gentleman was up in the Minnesota area. Don't know that I ever met him. I spent a lot of time in Minnesota when I was competing nationally and internationally, and I actually did know his sister fairly well. Tony was always helping out with world team tryouts and traveling to world team events, and always a very positive person, very big smile on her face all the time. Great to talk to, great to see. I always look forward to seeing her anytime I'd compete nationally. So my condolences to Tony, all the Osnicki family, and to anyone affected by this gentleman's passing. It's very sad. All right, let's go on and get into our coronavirus update. Again, let's go on and share this so that we can keep this conversation going. I'm going to start with the Dow numbers today. If we look over here, on Friday, the Dow closed at high 23,000s. That's stayed pretty steady through the week. And in fact, you can see it started the week not far off of where it ended. So that's a fairly steady week. There were ups and downs in it, but it's in the end, I look at the stock market on a long-term process, not on a short-term process. Today, even the stock market was up. I'm not sure exactly where it is now, but it was up earlier. So it seems to me that people are becoming a little bit more comfortable with this virus and being able to get through it. So that's a very positive sign. So happy to see that. So I'm going to shift over here and see if I can find my coronavirus numbers. Believe that is sharing now on the coronavirus numbers. If I scoot back over here to the United States, we can see that we are pushing the million dollar, why did I say dollar? We are pushing the million cases mark. So it's getting up there in numbers. That's a lot of people that have been sick from this virus. Now, on the good news side, back on April 12th, it was projected that we would be between 1 million and 1.6 million. That projection was based on doubling the number of cases every 3.5 to 4 days. Now, some of this you can say it's testing. Some of this you can say, yeah, we've done a great job. I'm just taking numbers that I have. This is from the Johns Hopkins Institute. And I try to get up and, at the same time every day, I try to drop in some numbers into the spreadsheet. So you may look at it when you view this video and go, oh no, this isn't the numbers, but this is what they were when I looked at it earlier today. So, and it's consistent throughout the days. And the reason I do that is I try to keep these three-day averages over here going, because to me, that's what's really important are the 3-day averages. This total number is important. Deaths lag behind. I'm not going to get too much into that because at some point, I only understand so much of that. What I see over here, though, is these 3-day averages. They kind of got up a little bit higher earlier in the last couple of weeks, and then now they're dropping back down. So, we seem to be at the top of that curve that everybody's been trying to flatten. And the good news is we're not going up to 40 and 50,000 on our 3-day averages. We're staying down a little bit. So that is positive news on the national level. A little closer to home, looking at Texas, it seems that we are just at the end of the up on the graph. So maybe we're at the very top of it. We had one day in here that almost got to the 3-day average, almost got to 1,000 cases per day. But now it's settled back down a little bit. So hopefully these numbers will keep coming down. I know there's a lot of talk about reopening Texas's economy. I'm ready to go back to work. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure ready to go. But at the same time, I want to do it safely. Taking a look at New York over here, I'd love to see this trend before we reopen, but I'm not sure the economy is going to allow us to do that. I'm not sure our government's going to allow us to do that. However you want to look at that. But look at the way they were at 10,000 2 weeks ago, and now they're down to 5,000 on their daily 3-day averages. So they're adding fewer and fewer cases as they go along, although their numbers are still staggering. When you come out here to the far right, you can see I started tracking Georgia. The reason I started tracking Georgia is because they were the first ones to say, let's open everything up. So I thought this would be a very good case to follow to see what they do in the next few weeks. So right now you can see numbers going down. I really don't have much in the 3-day averages here for comparison. But over here in the dailies, you can see the numbers look to be going down. Call it a lack of testing, call it it's time to open, call it what you want. But the numbers are going in the right direction for them right now. Will be interesting will be to see where they end up. Now, I don't know when their peaks were. You can see back here, April 22nd was when it was projected that Texas's peak would hit. New York's was earlier than that. I would think Georgia would be more in time of the New York peak. Now, whether or not Texas peaked on the 22nd or not is up for debate. To me, it looks like it's going to be a little earlier than that, 17th, 18th of April. But, I put in the projected peak in Texas based on models early on in my tracking. So the good news is I think things are starting to head in the right direction. So hopefully we will be back to work before long and back to training. So that's definitely good news. All right, let's get on to some of what we got from last week. You guys did a great job with sharing this video from last week. You did a great job on subscribing to the channel so that you can get all the updates that come, however all that stuff works. Some of you guys are a lot better at that than I am. I can tell you that there were over 500 views on that video. Is that some kind of a record for YouTube? Probably not. Is it a record for me? Yeah. So considering that was my first video. So does it mean that I'm a great presenter? Does it mean I'm funny? Well, maybe my legs, I don't know. I think what it really means is that we're getting information out that you guys want to have. So I'm happy to keep doing these. I spend quite a bit of time putting this stuff together, and I'm happy to do it because I'm looking at it anyway to know what to do with my own facility. So if I can help another facility a little bit, then I think that's a great thing to do. So lots of great comments. Of the 500 views, I'd tell you 25% of them left comments. It was pretty unbelievable. They did it in different ways. One way, if you're watching this off of a link on a Facebook message, I think there's a place you can click on it to get into YouTube, and you can comment on YouTube that way. At the very least, you can email me directly. My email is DePaugagility, the name of the school plus the word agility, all one word, depaugagility@gmail.com. So feel free to email me, and that way I'll know what those comments are. You can imagine the comments ranged everywhere from where everybody's good. Let's just go train. People who are going to get coronavirus are going to get coronavirus, and there'll be herd immunity at some point, and everybody will be fine. Well, the problem with herd immunity, when you look over there at that number on the spreadsheet, I think it was less than 1 million. There's 330 million in this country. It takes half of the people to be infected and have antibodies to have herd immunity. So we're a long ways from herd immunity. So, yeah, I don't know if that's it. On the other side, there's people that are like, man, I ain't coming out until this virus is totally eradicated, because otherwise we're all going to die. Well, I don't quite buy that side of it either, because I think there's things that we try to do to keep that from happening. And between science and a little common sense, I think we can maybe not eradicate the virus, but we can control the spread of it. So how are we going to do that? Got a lot of notes on this, so this one may be a little bit long, but I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can for you guys. I do want to discuss the comments because they were well thought out. And to me, each one carries equal weight. So, I'm going to do my best to do a complete job on this. Because there were so many comments, I think I'm going to tackle privates and classes this week. And then we'll worry about shows next week. How's that sound? There's been a lot of talk about how the virus spreads. Is this a contact spread? Meaning, what I think that means at least is somebody comes in and they have coronavirus and they touch something. Whatever they touch, the virus lives on it, and subject B comes in and touches the same place, then touches their face and gets it into their nasal passages, and that's how they become infected. Is that the way it's done? Or is it because somebody sneezes or coughs or talks and these micro droplets are in the air and somebody walks by and gets them in their nasal passages? Or is it both? I think we have to protect against both. So, the first thing I'd love to hear from the scientists is a definitive way that this virus spreads, but I'm sure we're a ways from hearing what that is definitively. So, with the different ways of spreading, I guess why it's important is because then you need to do different things to protect the public. The first thing you have to do to stop the spread is you got to have some rules, okay? And I think it's up to each facility, just like some people say it's up to each state on how to run their state. I think it's up to each facility to do the best they can to protect their clientele and their instructors. Their staff is very important to them. I can't replace my staff. My staff means everything to me. So, but I also can't replace my clients. So first thing, I think the clients have to be comfortable when they come to class. If they don't feel comfortable coming to class, they shouldn't come to class. As far as having to pay for classes that they're not attending, this gets to be a sticky point. We're going to have to come up with some kind of policies on that at my place, because I don't want people to feel compelled to come to class if they feel like there's a chance that they have coronavirus. Because if you're sick, you need to stay home. There's nothing worse than going into a place with a highly contagious virus and spreading it around. So And I need to do my job to have those people not feel like they need to come to class. So, I do have I call it a student sabbatical policy where people can take a full month off once a year. Maybe they want to give their dogs off, one month a year, or maybe they get hurt, or you're going to take an extended vacation. So maybe I'll have some type of an extension to that. So we'll just have to see how that all works out. Um, your rules really should be designed towards making your clients feel comfortable in your facility. So you need to know what makes your clients feel comfortable. And I will tell you, all the way from let's go now to we're all going to die. You're going to hear it all. So, um, but I think if you look at the majority of the comments, they're going to be in the middle. At least that's what I found so far. So a little bit more specific. Do you take everyone's temperature with a touchless thermometer? I've had trouble finding one, to be honest with you. They're not cheap. And then on top of that, there's that spread question. Is it asymptomatic? If it's asymptomatic, people who can spread the virus may not have a fever. So that's an issue. So, yeah, we can take everyone's temperature. And if you have a temperature, for sure, you're not going to come into the facility. I would hope you would have already stopped yourself, but maybe that is something that we need to do. Um, you know, take a temperature. Hand sanitizers. How many of you can go out and buy hand sanitizers? It's difficult to find this stuff. So I'm going to do my best to have it in my facility. I have orders out for more hand sanitizer. I definitely want to have that out and available to people. I'd like to have wipes out, alcohol wipes out. They're nowhere to be found. But there's always the idea of bleach water and stuff so that you can keep your place sanitized. Air filters, if you have an AC unit in your facility, there are some filters out there that can block the viruses. So I'll be looking into that as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can try to hold down the chance of the virus spreading. So I think we have to look at each one of these, and each facility is going to have to determine what's best for them. Do you question students before they walk into the building? Have you traveled? I had an eye appointment. Many of you may know that I had eye surgery earlier in the year, and so I'm going through the follow-up process on that, which is why one of my eyes kind of wants to close on me a little bit. But you walk in, they take your temperature, and they ask you questions like, "Have you traveled? Have you had a fever? Have you, done anything that would indicate that you might have COVID?" So they ask you 5, 6 questions. The biggest thing it does to me is it brings it to the forefront to think about, wow, if I have traveled, maybe I shouldn't come into this facility. Maybe I should find another way to get this done. So that is a question. What about signing waivers? Again, I don't think it stops the spread of COVID, but I do think it brings it to the forefront that we are concerned about it. So, it might be a thing to do. As far as actually stopping the spread, I think the biggest thing is to limit human contact around a little bit. Meaning, don't have so many people in your building. There's times in my building, even in classes, where I may have 40 or 50 people in there. That's a lot of people in a fairly small space. I mean, I know it looks like a big space. You put that many people in there with that many dogs, and all of a sudden, it's a load on that building. So how can we limit the numbers a little bit? Some of the ways that we can do that is we can, one thing, don't allow visitors. I hate it, but it's going to have to be done, I'm afraid. Only the working students, people working the dogs, will be allowed in, and there's not going to be observers and visitors, So that way it's less contact. So I think that's on the horizon. What about wearing masks? In a private lesson, I'm not so sure it helps as much. If you're, you're putting on a mask to go from the front door into the arena, and then from the arena back out to the front door. I'm not sure how much that does. If you're not wearing a mask to run, we'll get into that in a minute. But um, as far as classes go, whenever you're around other people, then I think the mask is going to be a very important spread preventer, if you will. I know that they're not perfect, but and keep in mind that masks and gloves and things like that actually protect the people around you more than they protect you. So I'm not sure I understand all the science behind that, but that what I've heard is the mask and gloves are to protect others more than they are to protect you. There are some problems with wearing masks. Can your dog hear you? Um, I find that if I'm in a grocery store and I have a mask on, it's a lot harder for people to hear me if I try to talk to them. If I try to ask a question, hey, where do you get this at? Because I'm bad at the grocery store, and invariably the person turns around and goes, "Huh." So I'm sure the dogs can't hear you as well. For years, I've said that where your eyes go or where your dog goes. So if it's not just the eyes, do the dogs read facial expressions? We know the dogs communicate through body language. If they can't see your mouth, do they know where to go? So if the dog can't see your face, that may be a detriment. So I've heard a lot of different facilities having the ideas of, yeah, you have to wear a mask whenever you're in the building, but when you're at the warm-up jump or out in the arena, you don't have to. Finally, I'm worried about people passing out if they have a mask on. Those of you who have worn a mask into a grocery store, when you get out, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to get that blasted mask off, right? And how you take it off is important. If you take it off from the front, just grab it, move it, real good chance you just got coronavirus on your hands if it was in the store. You want to pull it off from the back, from your ears, and pull it forward, okay? So that you don't get coronavirus on your hands. And then as soon as you take that mask off, you need to sanitize your hands. That's the thing that will keep that virus from spreading. So again, when you walk in the building, you probably should go wash your hands. I think that's probably going to be a rule. Walk in the building, wash your hands. Come out, use a paper towel to get out of the bathroom, and try to have a trash can right there close to the exit of the trash can. That's going to be the easiest way to do this. Okay. What about wearing gloves? Again, I think it helps protect people other than you. I'm not sure it does a lot for you. Keep in mind, if you go change a set of bars, if you go change a bar when you have a glove on, if there's coronavirus on that bar, you change that bar, you touch that coronavirus. It can live on that glove. You go change another bar. Now you've just moved it over to another bar for someone else to touch. So, the gloves, you'd almost have to change them between every bar set. So I don't know how much good that's going to do. So I really see, because I think the biggest issue here is transferring this virus through what you exhale when you talk, cough, sneeze, whatever. I really see the mask coming in. I'm not sure the gloves are going to help as much. There's also a problem with taking off the gloves, because if you touch the outside of those gloves, there again, you get coronavirus on your hand, touch your face, there you go. So I think what might be more prevalent or safer is to limit who gets to touch the equipment. And I personally think should be just the instructors. One of the problems with the equipment, especially at my place, is it's all PVC, plastic. Where does the coronavirus live the longest? On plastic. So I'm thinking that probably the best thing for it to do is just to have the instructor change the bars for now. If something needs to get moved, let the instructor move it. It may take a little bit more time, but that time that you invest to have the instructor do it instead of you can save the instructor from getting sick, can save you from getting sick, can save the next person from getting sick. So, I think it's an investment in health. So that may be something that I put into effect. I've had a lot of comments about social distancing and taping off the floor. yeah, we can tape off the floor, but I see a lot of people moving around in these classes. There are classes, different classes are different, depending on what they do and on what kind of equipment they use, that kind of thing. Um, some of the classes, yeah, you could probably set up a 10 by 10 area and have the people and the dogs stay in that area while they work that exercise or whatever. And that might be beneficial to be able to do something like that. But most of these classes, these people and dogs are moving around a lot. Like in agility, you don't run it in a 10 by 10 area. So I think that that's probably not going to be really that. Some classes it'll work, some classes it's not real realistic. So what may be more realistic is to have smaller, shorter classes. What's it matter? Hopefully the clientele will agree with me on this, but is a class of 3 for 30 minutes the same as a class of 6 for 60 minutes? And each of them, they each get 10 minutes pretty much on their uh, attention. The whole idea of the class is to be able to learn from others too, and I understand that. But in this day, with what we're facing, maybe we have to go to smaller classes that go shorter. I think that's a real possibility. So, finding ways to minimize the contact between humans is an important part. One other thing that we can do is designate an indoor and an outdoor. In my particular facility, I have a way to come in through the lobby, and you could come in that way and exit through a walk door into through the arena. Not all classes is the lobby open, so it may not always work, but at least we can make it better that way. So that's another way to do it. Another point was the washing of hands. Man, when you walk in that building, it's your responsibility to go into that bathroom and wash your hands before you start touching anything, because you never know what you've touched on the way there. So come in and wash your hands. And then that make sure that the coronavirus does not come into the facility. So that's doing a big favor for everybody around you. Crating out of your car. I'll talk about this more when we talk about shows next week. As you can see, this is already getting long. I'm already up 20 something minutes. So crating out of your car may still work for a little bit, but it's starting to get hot here in Texas. I don't know about some of you other guys, but it's starting to get a little hot here in Texas. If you can crate out of your car, go for it. Maybe your dog is heat tolerant. Maybe your car does better. If some of you guys were driving diesel motors, cars with diesel motors, you can run those puppies all day long and the air conditioner works great. Some of the air conditioners on the gas powered motors don't work as well when they idle. So I would definitely check the safety of your dogs if you're leaving your car and a dog for car and a dog, if you're leaving your dog in a car for very long. So, but it's a possibility. As far as when you're in the facility, I would suggest you bring your own crate. I'm thinking that we'll probably pull out the crates that are at DePaul that were shared crates. And not that I'm worried about the disease being transferred from dog to dog, but I am a little bit worried about people moving crates around to get them where they want them and having touched the handle of a crate that somebody else has just touched. So maybe we need just to go on and bring our own crates for a while. If you don't like sitting in a hard surface chair, maybe you need to bring your own. Cloth chairs are a little bit harder to sanitize. I'm getting into sanitization here. Cloth chairs are a little bit harder to sanitize than metal chairs are, plastic chairs. When we have some metal chairs around, so we'll probably use those. Sanitizing between students, how often do you sanitize? Well, if I'm just doing privates, this is pretty easy. I can, when one client gets done, I go out, I wipe the doorknob on the way in, the door handle, I wipe the push bar on the way out. I can wipe off the high touch points in the bathrooms, the gates going into the arena, that type of thing. So that's pretty easy on privates. When it gets to classes, it gets a little bit tougher because we'll have a few more people in the building at one time. Hopefully we won't have more than 10 in the building at one time. I think we're going to have to watch those numbers a little bit. Um, 25% capacity is something I've heard thrown around lately. Um, the capacity of my building is a lot more by the government than what I would be comfortable having in there. So, again, each facility is going to have to make up their own mind what's safe for them and for their staff and for their clientele. But I think it is imperative that we sanitize. What about outdoor classes? As long as it stays a little cooler, some of the evening classes, some of the classes lend well to going outside. Nose work lends very well to it. Agility doesn't lend so well to it. So I think, again, it's going to depend on the class. Heard some talk that the ACs can be a problem. Sure, I'd love to put virus fighting filters in there, something that blocks all the viruses. But there's still, the virus is still going to be there until the air gets recirculated. So I'm going to try to find some of those filters, but got weird side. We'll see what I can do, So maybe we just need to open the doors when it's even tolerable and not run the ACs in. That way, maybe we can get the virus to go out through the doors as opposed to running back in through that mechanical air conditioning system. Another option is to limit to where we only do one class at a time. If you've been in my facilities, it's a busy facility. Sometimes there's 2 and 3 classes going on, seldom 3, but very often 2. So maybe we don't want to do that for now. So may have to find other times to do classes, but we'll work on that. Limiting when people can come in for a class. Some of the early birds aren't going to like this a whole lot, but maybe they have to wait in their car until the class before them leaves. Go out and potty your dog, then go back to your car and wait. And then as soon as I can let another class in, we'll let the next class in and we'll get going on that next class. That's especially effective if we do the smaller, shorter classes. Another idea is to shrink up the agility field a little bit. Let the people crate out where the agility field is now, clear off an area out there, and that can be a crating area. And then that does give more room for the classes that we do on the mat. For those of you familiar with my building, in that front area, that's about 3,500 square feet, shrink up the agility ring from 9,000 square foot down to about 6,000 square foot. Then there's another 3,000 square foot out there for people to crate in, stay socially distanced in. So that's another very good option. If we don't have to have 2 classes going on at once, probably won't take that option. But if we do need to, that it's possible. I've had some suggestions for online classes. The problem with online classes for me is if I don't have equipment, I do my best teaching when it's interactive with someone. I do my best learning when it's interactive with someone. So it's very difficult for me to do the online thing. There are people out there very good at it. They typically don't do exactly what I do. But, if that works for you, if you learn that way, go for it. They're all over out there. Just do searches on Google for online agility classes or online obedience classes, online puppy classes. You'll find them out there. So, and there's some really good ones out there. I've seen a few of them that are just fantastic. So don't be afraid to do that. There could also be a mix of it though. And what I mean by that is maybe the walkthrough and the instructional part of the class is done online. So right before you get there, you're going to get an email and you can see a video, hopefully a little shorter than this one, that will take you through the course. That way, when you get there, all you have to do is take a quick cursory walkthrough just to see the angles and stuff, and then you can get on with class. So it might be a very expeditious way to do shorter classes with less human contact, keeping you safe from the virus. One of the comments that I'm kind of bummed about, but is probably a good idea, is not to have brag food for a while. I don't know what I'm going to do whenever somebody has a good weekend and can't bring donuts. That's going to kill me, but I'll try to deal with it. So, shared food has probably gone away for a little while. One of the comments that interest me greatly was risk to dogs and other pets in the house. Uh, Seems like this particular coronavirus is likes cats and ferrets more than any other animals. There's coronavirus, excuse me, there's coronaviruses everywhere. Vets have dealt with them for a long time, but in this, different ones like different bodies. Typically, though, they only like one or two different kinds of bodies. This one seems to be humans, cats, ferrets. So that means that, yeah, dogs can get infected, but it looks like there's been thousands of dogs and cats tested now already. And there's only 4 cases in the world where there's been domesticated animals be positive for coronavirus. So I don't think that the threat of transmission from a human to a dog is very high. The other thing is the the threat of it going from the dog back to the person is even lower. It seems to be a dead end host to where if a dog gets it, it doesn't go back to the human. So with the thousands of tests and basically no positives, I don't think that the threat of coronavirus coming down to our dogs is a big threat. And in every case that all 4 of the cases that was talked about in the research I did, the person who owned the pet was positive for coronavirus. So hopefully that's the good side of all this, is that maybe we won't have the threat of transfer from animals to humans and back to animals. As far as rentals go in the building, I'm a little concerned about doing that because of the lack of ability to control the sanitization on the building. I feel like at first, the most important thing for us to do to be safe is to sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. So I'm thinking that we're going to do private lessons first, then some smaller classes, then we may get into rentals. The last thing to come back will be shows. That's the reason I'll attack shows next week instead of this week. But for now, let's just stick with what we've done here, because this is starting to get pretty long. And in fact, let's go on and try to wrap up. My conclusion now is pretty much waiting to see what the governor's going to say today, and I'm hoping that pretty soon he's going to lift the stay-at-home rules, and we'll be able to get back to to training in some form. It may not be this week, next week, but pretty soon. I'd be surprised if we're more than a week away from getting back to training. So you guys look forward to it. I sure am looking forward to seeing everybody. Hope you found this beneficial, and we'll attack shows next week, like I said. And let's get back to training. In the meantime, let's do it in a safe way. You guys stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care.